information that might be useful or necessary for them to understand exactly what it is that we're looking for in reference to this grant opportunity. So first things first, my name is Bill Sarbuck. I'm the supervisor of the Office of Apprenticeship here at the New Jersey Department of Labor. The NJBUILD grant for women and minorities in construction trades is looking to find grantees and those interested in providing women and minorities opportunities to get into the construction trades. That there's going to be a time for you to train those individuals and get them prepared for the workforce, and then the expectation will be that placement will occur during the time frame of this grant period. What we're going to present to you today is what it is that our unit is looking for in reference to the notice of grant opportunity that was posted earlier this month, and the application that you'll have to complete in our IGX database. We'll get into a little more detail on that in a few minutes. So first things first, let me just inform you all that we will be recording this session. Anything and everything that is said and or anything that's put into the chat will be on that recording, and ultimately we will supply that recording to all attendees for you to both share with other staff that didn't attend today, or to reference back to when you're working on completing your application. We ask that all questions are held to the end and that you enter them into the chat. You don't have to wait to the end to enter them into the chat. You can enter them at any time. Just know we won't reference them and won't speak to them until the end of the presentation, just to ensure that we can stay timely for everybody, but also to ensure that we don't get distracted and lose our place in the presentation. It'll ultimately will help for there to be a more positive experience for you as the attendee for today's session. So what we'll do now is we'll get started. So Tammy, if you can switch. So first things first, as I said, we are the Office of Apprenticeship, and the NJBUILD program is not specific to just apprenticeship, but ultimately we do hope for there to be applicants that are looking to go the route of a pre-apprenticeship training program that'll lead some of these women and minorities into the apprenticeships that are available, or any apprenticeships that you may want to create yourself here in New Jersey. It's important to also pay attention to that fact. Our program is only eligible to grantees or that that are within the state of New Jersey. So if you don't currently have a location within the state of New Jersey, you would have to get a location within the state of New Jersey early on within the grant process. All of our participants also have to be New Jersey residents in order to participate. So these are things to just concentrate on and pay attention to, because ultimately that is important when it comes to the actual program specifics and what we require for our NJBUILD grantees and participants of the programs. So first things first here, this is the mission of our Office of Apprenticeship. We work closely with the United States Department of Labor and serve as the one-stop shop for employers, nonprofits, secondary and post-secondary institutions that are interested in developing apprenticeship opportunities. We don't set up the apprenticeships. The registered apprenticeships are registered with the United States Department of Labor, but we do have staff here at the Department of Labor who will help you make those proper connections and understand exactly what it is that's going to be expected of you by USDOL in order to get that registered apprenticeship registered. It has to be approved by USDOL in order for it to be considered a registered apprenticeship, and there's a lot involved in that, but ultimately we could help with that if need be, if you were interested in starting up a registered apprenticeship here at the Office of Apprenticeship. We support new and expand on existing pre-apprenticeship and USDOL registered apprenticeship programs in New Jersey. We do that by providing funds like these. The idea here being that we're not looking to just fund programs that are doing apprenticeships in areas or occupations that have always been in existence. We're really looking to expand on the current usage of the registered apprenticeship model here in New Jersey. We establish pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs in non-traditional high-growth occupations and sectors. A lot of people think of these sectors being specific to the trades and the unions. Obviously, NJBuild funds do require that it's in the construction-related occupation, but it does not have to be unions that you're placing these individuals with. There can be there's plenty of registered apprenticeship programs that are registered by smaller trade organizations and trade companies. So it's definitely possible for an occupation to be non-trade related, non-union related, in some capacities and still fit into the construction related occupations. So it's just something to keep in mind. We are looking to expand the New Jersey Apprenticeship Network to facilitate interactions between industry, educational institutions, training providers, and job seekers. What this means is New Jersey created this apprenticeship network to basically ensure that all parties that are involved in the apprenticeship model are working together in some capacity to try and assist each other in order to make this apprenticeship model work. It's hard to do when you're doing it all on your own. So ultimately, we've had this network of organizations and network of departments and state agencies that are working to try and work together, both with USDOL and us, the New Jersey Department of Labor. So that's what one of our missions. We're looking to better align secondary, post-secondary adult education and occupational training to meet the labor demands unique to New Jersey and develop career pathways that lead to economically sustainable wages. So what this basically means is we're looking to try and align our trainings and our programs to the needs of employers in the state of New Jersey. The goal here would be to make the opportunity for participants start at the pathway of training and end at the pathway of employment, and work through them being able to work their way in that career to possibly obtaining even more opportunities as time goes forward. It's called a career pathway, and ultimately the goal would be to create that career pathway from start to at least the beginning of their career moving forward through our programs. We look to help apprentices earn college credits and access robust career counseling and increase diversity and inclusion in apprenticeship programs. And we look to remove economic barriers to training and upskilling through targeted investments. The targeted investments would be grants like this. Next page, please. So as I said, the New Jersey Apprenticeship Network is a vision in which is looking to develop sustainable talent pipelines by aligning pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs with the needs of employers, training providers, and job seekers. The goal here would be for all parties involved to work together to increase the number of registered apprenticeship opportunities and also the number of registered apprentices across the state. In a couple of minutes here, we'll show you some slides to show you how that's actually occurred during the time in which we've been providing programs like this and since the New Jersey Apprenticeship Network was created. The New Jersey Apprenticeship Network is focused on driving economic development through skills and educational attainment and concentrating efforts on sector-based, demand-driven training and education programs that lead to better paying careers, advanced credentials, and skills attainment. You'll see that within the Notice of Grant Opportunity, we have specific sectors of the employment that we look to concentrate on. We also look to concentrate on things like green jobs, lead abatement, stuff like that. We'll talk about that in a little while. And we're also focused on developing an ecosystem that provides multiple years of economic support to businesses and individuals for occupational skills training, leading to sustainable wages and upward mobility for workers and increasing talent pipelines for employers. Everybody's heard, just even going to a local store, how the shortages of workers and hardworking individuals is really limiting employers' abilities to meet the needs of their customers walking through the door. Programs like ours are hopefully there to help those employers fill those gaps while also doing it in a way that allows for somebody to come in from the ground level and work their way up. It's not always easy to expect there to be somebody out there that just wants to do the job and has all the experience. So our programs are hopefully here to lend a hand in that and ensure that you as the employer have the ability to provide that time for this person to obtain the skills necessary in order to get into the employment. So next slide, please. So what is a registered apprenticeship program? A registered apprenticeship program is approved by the United States Department of Labor and is an industry-driven structured training program that allows an apprentice to earn while they learn. There's a minimum of 144 hours of related technical instruction, which is what we consider classroom training. It's sitting in a classroom and learning, and 2,000 hours of on-the-job training learning. And these are both required every year in which the apprenticeship program is in existence. The complexity of the program is going to dictate how long the registered apprenticeship program is, but they usually range from anywhere to 1 to 5 years. Depending on the occupation, some of them will be 1 year, some of them will be 3.5 years. It really depends on how long it takes them to get the on-the-job training hours and or any of the related technical instruction that's necessary. First thing that's important in a registered apprenticeship to understand is that it's a paid job. All the participants in a registered apprenticeship are paid from day one. They're learning from the start, but they're also earning a wage that'll increase as they develop new skills. They'll receive credentials, industry recognized credentials, both from some of the certifications that they might receive while in their related technical instruction. And once they complete the program, they receive a nationwide recognized credential from the United States Department of Labor that states that they have completed their registered apprenticeship. They receive education, they gain that workplace relevant skills for the field in which they're choosing to work in, both in the classroom and on the job. And there's a degree potential, which is they have the potential to convert those. Sorry, somebody's mute you. They have the opportunity to convert some of the registered apprenticeship training hours with community colleges and colleges around New Jersey into college credits, sometimes even from the start of the programs. And then there's also a mentorship component where they are working with a mentor within their industry to help them best understand what's expected of them and what to expect as time moves forward in the career. Next slide. So here's some of the numbers on where we're at with apprenticeship here in New Jersey today and where we were when Governor Murphy came into office, which would have been just before this New Jersey Apprenticeship Network was created. So currently we have 8,788 active apprentices in the state with 1,152 registered programs. We've registered 541 new apprenticeship programs statewide since January 16th of 2018, which is an 89% statewide increase. We've had 16,107 new apprentices hired here in New Jersey, and we've issued 7,994 new industry recognized certificates of completions, which means 7,994 participants of a registered apprenticeship program have completed that registered apprenticeship program. According to data from the last quarter of 2017, the total apprentices has increased approximately 2,005 apprentices since the beginning of Governor Murphy's time in office. It's the highest level in New Jersey since 2013. And that growth trend accounts for a 30% net statewide increase in active registered apprentices. So as you can see, these programs have helped to increase the number of registered apprentices and the number of registered apprenticeship programs here in New Jersey. So getting off of registered apprenticeship and getting into the New Jersey Build program, we're going to speak more specifically to what this New Jersey Build program is. So I'm going to hand this off to my colleague, Lauren Kremper DiFilippo, who will go over a couple of these slides before she hands it back over to me. Lauren.
Hi, everybody. My name's Lauren, and I'm a contract administrator for this unit. So we would be working together should you be awarded a grant. So what is New Jersey Builders Utilization Initiative for Labor Diversity, or as we call it, NJBUILD? Funding for NJBUILD is provided through the Annual Appropriations Act and PL 2009C335. NJBUILD is designed to provide training opportunities for minorities and women in construction trades and construction-related trades so that minorities and women can realize equal employment opportunity in public contracting. All state agencies are required to pay 1/2 of 1% of the total cost of construction contracts that are equal to or greater than $1 million to the NJBUILD fund immediately upon award of the contract. A program overview is that the Women and Minorities in Construction Trades program seeks to eliminate economic barriers commonly associated with an individual's inability to invest in skills training and work readiness and connect women and or minority populations to quality career and training opportunities in the building and construction industry. NJBuild aims to strengthen access to employment and training for women and minorities in the construction trades. The mission of the program is to promote outreach, occupational skills training, including but not limited to pre-apprenticeship training in the construction trades, registered apprenticeship, and on-the-job training for female and minority residents of New Jersey to prepare them for entry into a registered apprenticeship or employment in a construction-related job. The primary goals and objectives are to increase opportunities for women and minorities to acquire skills, increase employment opportunities, and benefit economically from construction and infrastructure projects within New Jersey, assist public works contractors, businesses, and trade unions in meeting their workforce needs through the recruiting and training of women and minority populations, engage contractors in the development and provision of construction-related training, provide workforce readiness and occupation-specific construction-related trades training, and assist participants with job placement services in construction-related jobs or registered apprenticeship programs with a pay rate of no less than $15 per hour. The expectations is to prepare women and minorities for employment and or placements in registered apprenticeship programs within the building and construction trade occupations or other industry occupations and provide quality support services to ensure success for placements into employment. Funding must be used to support training in the construction and building trades industry, including lead abatement occupations, occupations within the construction crafts, administrative support, or operational occupations are acceptable. This includes professional titles as well as skilled trades. And I'm going to hand it back to Bill to talk about the green energy economy. You're muted.
See that? I try to be nice and not have you hear me typing away because I'm always doing multiple things at the same time, and then you can't hear me anyway. So, in previous rounds of our Women and Minority Grant, we have had a set aside of funds specific to green energy economy. We don't have that in this round. All the funds that are being made available are available to anybody and all applicants. We don't, so you don't have to go into the green energy fields, but we felt like it would be good to share this slide with you. It is a big push here in New Jersey to increase the number of green energy jobs and to work towards lead abatement world so that we don't have um, households and people that are affected by the lead um, within those households uh, as we move forward in time. So, we're definitely have a lot of employers that are out there working in these fields. So this is something to think about when it comes to creating your programs and training some of your individuals in these fields. So NJDOL is committed to investing in a clean energy economy and construction jobs. It's not mandatory that applicants concentrate on these occupations, but it is encouraged within the application that you focus on construction related occupations within these fields. So some of the green job opportunities will be clean buildings or the decarbonization of those buildings, offshore wind, energy efficiency, environmental infrastructure, grid infrastructure and storage, solar energy, or weatherization occupations. As far as lead abatement, lead-based paint and lead-contaminated water line hazards burden New Jersey homes, schools, and places of business, causing sickness and poisoning across the country. In support of the need to remediate these thousands of New Jersey's lead-burdened homes, apartments, and places of business, we're encouraging a concentration on training and placement in the lead abatement industry within this FY24 Women and Minorities Grant. As I said, this would be occupations in those areas and trainings to prepare those individuals to get into those occupations. It would be a good idea for you to really figure out who your partner agencies are going to be before you decide whether or not you're going to go these routes with your trainings, because you want to make sure that you have a sufficient number of opportunities to provide to your participants, before you really gauge exactly how far you want to go into training your participants in these areas. But ultimately, it's an option and an opportunity, so we share the information with you. Next page. So as far as the Women and Minorities Construction Grant, we suggest that you choose one of the three options that you see here as far as how you're going to train your participants and what you're going to work towards placement with them based on that training. So, training should be conducted to prepare women minorities for entry into the construction industry, in which your training is concentrated on. Your training must include work readiness, occupational training, and job shadowing in the field in which you're training them in. The first option would be to provide pre-apprenticeship training, which would then lead to you placing these individuals into a registered apprenticeship program. Obviously, we're the Office of Apprenticeship, so that is the first option that we're going to recommend to you, but it is not the only option that you can choose with NJBuild funds. The second option would be to complete a pre-apprenticeship. I'm sorry. The second option would be to split the training and have some of your participants receive pre-apprenticeship training that lead to USDOL training, or some of your participants have pre-employment training that leads to employment in the construction fields that pays a minimum of $15 an hour. You can do 100% of your participants in just pre-employment. You don't have to do any in pre-apprenticeship, but you can do them in pre-apprenticeship leading to a registered apprenticeship and have some go into employment as well. Your third option is to not provide a pre-apprenticeship program, but to be an employer yourself who's taking on participants to train on the job, and we would pay up to 50% of that person's hourly wage up to the maximum allowable per participant, which is $15,000 per participant. So it would basically give you a time frame to train these individuals on the job. Individuals that have to be women and minorities. It would have to be in a construction field, and ultimately, like I said, we would pay up to 50% of their salary, up to a $15,000 maximum per participant. Next slide. So if you were to choose option 1 or 2 and do the pre-apprenticeship training, your training and curriculum would have to be approved by USDOL. You'd have to have strategies for long-term success, and you'd have to have access to appropriate support services, for those participants, and a connection to your one-stop. These would be important things to make sure that services that the one-stop provides are made available to your participants. You'd also want to promote greater use of registered apprenticeship. Well, actually, you selecting these options would promote greater use of registered apprenticeship, and it would mean that your participants would get meaningful hands-on training, and it would have to make sure that it's not displacing any current employees. We're not looking for an employer to see an opportunity for there to be a subsidy in our program. Therefore, they start laying off employees that they have and taking on people from our programs. There should be a facilitated entry and an articulation into an approved registered apprenticeship program. And that's something that you would work with your USDOL representative on. It's very important to understand that applicants if you're going to choose to do pre-apprenticeship training in any way, shape, or form, you're going to have an established connection to at least one registered apprenticeship program or sponsor. Without that, we won't be able to see how you're going to actually place them with a registered apprenticeship program once they've completed. You can speak to the creation of your own registered apprenticeship program, but you'd have to be able to show us that you've already had connection with USDOL, spoken with them, and started the process at the time of application, so that we can ensure that you would have a registered apprenticeship program in place once the pre-apprenticeship training was completed. Next slide. So if you decided not to go the route of pre-apprenticeship at all, and you were just going to do pre-employment training in the construction fields, the curriculum should still be industry driven, and the training curriculum and training should still be industry driven and based on what the employers that you're working with or your partner agencies are asking these participants to be qualified by having. You'll want to ensure that you're providing some sort of job coaching or employment preparation to these participants. You want to make sure they have access to appropriate supportive services and one-stop connection. You want to make sure you speak to all these things within your application. You're going to want to make sure that you have occupation-specific construction-related training. If it's not construction-related, we're not going to consider your application for this grant. NJBuild requires it's specific to the population of women and minorities, and that the training is only in the construction-related training fields. Okay. You'll want to make sure you have hands-on training that simulates on-the-job circumstances and situations. Sometimes that's done through job shadowing, sometimes that's done through going out and doing visits with employers, and sometimes that's done with actually doing hands-on work in the training and learning and doing it with the tools that sometimes are supplied right through the grant. And then you want to ensure that there's a quality job placement and retention services post-placement. This would mean that your application should have quality support and commitment letters from employers stating that they're going to hire a specific number of your participants once they complete your training, and that they intend to hire them from the program post-training. And then you would provide that retention service to them post-placement with the employer to ensure that the placement sticks for more than the 30, 60, 90 days. You want to ensure that your participants aren't getting training and then losing the job shortly after they get them. The goal would be for them to retain these employees, both for the employer's sake, because the employers then would be happy with the placement, but also for the participant's sake, because we don't want to necessarily spend $15,000 on a participant receiving training and them not to have opportunities in the field. So, next slide. And the third option, as I said before, was on-the-job training. This is employer driven to meet the needs of their business. So if the employer has a business in which they have a need to hire and they want to do it through this program and subsidize the hiring process, but also bring on new hires that don't have experience and want to take advantage of this grant for that purpose, then the funding can be used to provide that on-the-job training at a minimum of $15 per hour. Now that will probably go up, just so everybody here knows. Minimum wage as of January 2024 is going up to, I think, 15.11 or 15.13 an hour, something like that. So obviously, minimally, they'll have to be hired at making more than $15 per hour starting in January. We had this listed at $15 per hour before that was recognized. That number may go up to $16 per hour. If for some reason you can provide proof that the industry in which you're looking to place them in is incapable of paying that $16 per hour, we can look into it and see if we can get it reduced. But ultimately, the expectation at some point here may be that at the minimum salary of these individuals would be $16 per hour. It's definitely going to be to start $15 per hour, and then obviously starting in January it would be the minimum wage, which is I think I said 15.13 an hour, something like that. Funding from this program will be used to provide a 50% wage reimbursement to the employer, which would also be the applicant in this situation. And that reimbursement would be for salary, their full-time salary only. So overtime hours is not covered, holiday time is not covered, sick time is not covered. All we cover is up to 40 hours of employment, regular hourly rate at 50%. The maximum cost per participant would be $15,000. So it would be the first $15,000, well, $30,000 that the participant received working for that employer. We would pay half of it. Commitment of retention of the employee is going to be required post funding. We're not looking to just subsidize your salaries for your staff and then you no longer keep them employed afterwards. So that's something to keep in mind. And it must not displace existing employees. As I said earlier, if you were using this funding and laying off other employees in order to get the subsidy, that would not be what this program is in existence for. The goal here is to increase the number of women and minorities in the construction related fields, but it's also not to do that with the expectation then that it could possibly displace others who are working in the field already. Um, a strong application would provide detailed description of the on-the-job training that they're looking to provide, with a timeline and detailed assurances for retention of the participants, as well as comfort that the program will not displace existing employees. Um, those are key pieces to pay attention to, those little starred areas at the bottom of these last 3 pages, because those are going to be things that you can provide to us within your application that will help us to best determine whether or not you have those partnerships in place up front, and that your program will be most successful based on those partnerships. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to hand it back over to Lauren, who will speak a little bit more about some of the specific things within the Notice of Grant Opportunity.
Okay, hello again. So the deliverables. The following objectives have been established to achieve the goals of increasing opportunities for the employment of women and minorities in the construction industry and to address the building and construction industry's need for better prepared apprentices and employees. So to recruit participants through active marketing, recruitment, and outreach strategies, to provide pre-employment or pre-apprenticeship training to prepare eligible participants for jobs within the construction industry, to provide job coaching and employment preparation to women and minority individuals, to assist with job placement services targeting employment in the USDOL Registered Apprenticeship Program or other construction-related employment paying no less than, and as just discussed, the $15 per hour, and to obtain sustainable employment in any building and construction trades occupation or any ancillary occupations associated with the building and construction trades. Program outcomes. Participants must participate in all components of the program, graduate a minimum of 75% of program participants from the training program, place a minimum of 75% of program participants into either USDOL Registered Apprenticeship Program or into employment with a construction job with a starting wage, again, we'll say, of at least $15 per hour. Conduct follow-up for job retention post-placement, a minimum of one industry-valued credential, and assist participants to acquire such documents such as their driver's license, state ID, a birth certificate, etc. Case management, supportive services, and job coaching. Applicants are required to provide the following services: assessment of program participants to determine if additional supportive services are needed, provide ongoing case management services during the training program and after job placement. Each participant must obtain at least one industry recognized credential, and provide job coaching and job placement services linking participants to USDOL approved registered apprenticeship programs and/or trade-related employment. Grantees can include need-based stipends in their budgets to enable participation. Stipend payments can be paid to the participants on a bi-weekly basis and cannot exceed $250 per week. Funding and contract information. Funding for fiscal year 2024 is expected to be $3 million and is contingent upon availability of funds. Please note that organizations awarded fiscal year 2023 women and minorities in construction trades contracts are not eligible to apply for fiscal 2024 funding. The round one application is open to those eligible organizations not funded in fiscal year 23, as well as new applicants. The contract length will be 18 months. Competitive proposals will have a cost per head of a maximum of $15,000. Funding from this grant announcement shall be used to support training in the construction and building trades. Any construction craft, administrative, support, and/or operational occupations are acceptable. This includes professional titles as well as skilled trades. Awarded applicants will have administrative responsibilities included to, but not limited to, the archiving of records, completing monthly reports, and attending required meetings.
Can I add something to that slide just for clarity purposes? When we say the maximum cost per head is $15,000, please understand that that means if you're going to serve um, 20 participants with this training, the maximum allowable that you can request from us is $300,000. It does not include, you can't, it isn't 15,000 that's just going to participant services. It's the total. So that would include all costs for anything from marketing and administrative costs and the services that are needed in order to provide the training to the participants. It's a maximum per head of $15,000 total. So please don't ask us for $500,000 to serve 10 participants. It's not going to be allowable. You have to make sure that you're within that $15,000 per participant cost range, or at least close to it. But I can promise you, if you're above it, we're going to ask you to reduce it, even if you do get awarded to be at $15,000 per participant. Sometimes we'll ask you to increase the number of participants you're going to serve. Sometimes we'll ask you to reduce the amount of funding that you are requesting. It really depends on the situation. It also depends on how many applications we get. You want to make sure that you are putting in place a program that is going to be successful. And we're going to look at that when it comes to panel and review of your applications and see whether or not we feel like what you've submitted is going to be a successful program. So please be careful to ensure and take all of that into consideration. And please be sure that you're within that $15,000 per participant cost allowance.
The application process. Okay, your proposal is going to have these following components, and they're all required documents. The required information must be submitted in the IGX system. Applicant information, the counties to serve, your previous funding, consortium partners and commitment letters, your deliverables, your activity plan, your statement of need, organizational commitment and capacity, a training curriculum and schedule, a program sustainability plan, your tax clearance certificate, a prior performance narrative, and budget summary and details. The first steps, if you are considering applying, you want to ensure that you're an eligible entity to apply. And these page numbers are what in the NGO, so pages 7 to 8 you can refer to. An authorized official or the AO registers in SAGE or the IGX system, instructions page 11. The authorized official submits a letter of intent that's described on page 11, and there's a template on page 20 of the NGO. NJDOL approves the authorized official in SAGE IGX and provides access to the application. You obtain your tax clearance certificate from the New Jersey Division of Taxation. Get information on page 14 and a template on 21. And that you register with the New Jersey Department of Treasury, or that would be NJ START. And you can refer to page 21 of the NGO.
Let me just also add to this section. Please don't wait. If you're really considering applying for this grant or any grant here in the state of New Jersey, you might as well reach out to taxation about the tax clearance certificate now. It needs to be within 6 months of the time of application that you've submitted it, that you received it from taxation. So if you've got a letter from taxation, but it's more than 6 months old, you're going to have to request a new one. My suggestion is reach out to them as early as possible, because they do have times a year where they fall behind and it takes them a lot longer to get it to you. Not to mention, if there's a situation or an issue with your tax clearance, you want to make sure that you're not waiting till the last second. I will tell you right now, if you don't have a tax clearance certificate by the time your application is submitted to panel, your application will not be considered for grant funding. Please don't put your organization in a situation where they won't be considered for grant funding strictly because of the formality of getting this letter from taxation. A lot of times you'll notice when you get in touch with them, there's not much of an issue and you can get it from them, but it doesn't always take a day. Sometimes it takes a week. Sometimes it takes longer than that. So please get on top of the tax clearance certificate as soon as you possibly can. Do not wait, especially if you think you're going to apply for this grant or any other grant here in the near future. As far as the NJ Start stuff, you'll want to go there even if you know you're already registered, and make sure that your data is up to date, that everything is clear and clean, so that if you do get awarded, we don't have any issues with setting up your account because that ultimately allows for us to be able to pay you, and we need to do that up front. So you want to make sure that you reach out to the Department of Treasury and really make sure that that NJ Start information is up to date. And then here in a second, we're going to show you the letter of intent so that you can see what it is. And we're going to go over a few pieces that are important for you to really concentrate on. And then lastly, make sure if you're going to apply for this grant that you have your authorized official or the person who's going to sign off on your contract log into the IGX database and register into the system, as well as yourselves if you're not currently registered in the database. There are instructions within the NGO, as it states here on page 11. And that will hopefully help you understand exactly what your next steps are. But we'll talk about it again in here in the near future in the presentation.
So here's the template for the letter of intent. This is one of your first steps. This tells us that you are interested in applying for the program, and the template's on page 20 of the NGO. It's attachment 1. And you can see through it. You have to provide your business name. It's very important that you obtain your unique entity identification, or the UEI. It replaced the DUNS number if you applied for previous grants. And here you'll also state your address and who the authorized official and the main point of contact will be for this grant. You can email once this is complete to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov. It's about a 1 to 2 day turnaround time with obtaining the access to the application, as long as everything's complete on your letter.
Some other points to make sure you concentrate on here is that you put it on your organization's letterhead. That way we know that your organization is legitimate and actually interested in applying for this grant. And that section in the middle where it says provide your organization's name, don't leave it saying provide your organization's name. Please add your organization's name there. You see where it's in parentheses, provide the industry occupation area you wish to apply for. Please don't leave those words in there. Replace those words with the actual industry and occupations that you're looking to train your participants in. As Lauren said, the UEI number is important. We will provide you with instructions on how to get one if you're not sure how to do that. It's done through the sam.gov website. But that'll come with this information, as well as the PowerPoint, a copy of the presentation, an FAQ document. We're going to send you everything at the end, so don't worry. You'll get everything and anything you need in order to be able to understand what we talked about today and to prepare yourselves best for completing the application. Once you submit this letter of intent, as long as everything is good and we can find your organization within our IGX database, we will give you access to the application at that time, and we'll also provide you with a step-by-step workflow on how to complete the application within the IGX database. So don't get overwhelmed, don't get worried, don't get scared. We do provide you with as much information as we can, and everybody gets the same information.
So let's just take a little in-depth look at the proposal. Your activity plan, it should be a maximum of 15 pages, and you'll provide specific objectives and a training plan. Your timeline from recruitment to job placement and enrollment in a registered apprenticeship, detailed outreach and recruitment plans, post-placement follow-up plans, and a comprehensive program plan that is strongly encouraged. Your statement of needs should only be a maximum of 5 pages. You want to specify construction needs in your region, demonstrate the need for placement and services for women and minority veterans, and a projected number of apprenticeship opportunities if that's applicable to your program.
Just to make sure that everybody understands, it's actually just women and minorities. We do a veteran portion of this population grant as well,
Oh,
but it's not mandatory that all participants are veterans for this grant. They just have to be women or minorities, or women and minorities, whichever.
the organizational commitment and capacity is a maximum of 5 pages. You're going to describe your commitment to addressing the needs you're identifying, provide the organization's support for implementing the project, and provide experience that will lead to the success of the project. Your program sustainability plan is also a maximum of 5 pages. It's to describe a strategy for long-term success should you be absent of this grant funding.
Just as also another quick thing, when you see maximums on pages, that doesn't mean they're also the minimums. Please make sure that you're concise in the information that you provide to us, but ultimately provide us with everything we need in order to be able to review your application and see if it meets the needs and requirements of the notice of grant opportunity. You don't need to fit 15 pages in because it says a maximum of 15 pages. If you really only have 10 or 11 pages worth of data, that is perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with that. If that's what you have and that's what your program's going to be, it really doesn't benefit you to reiterate the same things that you've already stated before, or to get into information that isn't specific to the grant, or the outcomes in which you're looking to meet. So, we do put maximums, but we do not have minimum requirements on our pages.
The training curriculum and schedule. Your curriculum should outline training components, including associated hours for completion of each component. It should be based on industry standards with the goal of preparing participants to enter a registered apprenticeship or a job paying minimally $15 per hour. Must be focused on basic skills instruction, workforce readiness instruction, and occupation-specific construction trades training, as well as provide recruitment strategies and your attendance policy. A prior performance narrative. It's only required if you received prior state funding or a similar program. You want to describe your performance, including outcomes, effectiveness, and success in meeting goals and objectives of the grant. Evaluation criteria. All applications are considered new applications and will be evaluated based on quality, comprehensiveness, completeness, accuracy, and appropriateness to the NGO. This is a competitive process, and applications are reviewed by a selection committee using a pre-established set of requirements.
There is also information within the notice of grant opportunity that break down some of the ways that we score our applications. Please pay attention to that within the notice of grant opportunity when you're completing your sections and your information and what you're providing us, to make sure that you're providing all of the details in which we're looking to be able to capture data and information on. So just important things to always pay attention to, and always concentrate on. Sorry, Lauren.
I was just going to turn it over to Tammy for IGX.
Hi, everyone. I am Tammy Noviton, and I'm a contractor administrator with the New Jersey Office of Apprenticeship. And so the next slides that we're going to review, they're going to involve registering an IGX and navigating through the various steps for completing the Women and Minorities application. So IGX, it's an online database that we utilize for all steps of the grant process, including completing an application to apply for grant funding. Previously, we used a system called SAGE, which is a predecessor to IGX. So since SAGE and IGX are related, if you were previously given access to SAGE within the past 2 years, you do not need to re-register in IGX. Your login credentials would have been migrated over. Also, if you already have an IGX login, you do not need to re-register for access. You can use your existing credentials. So for those of you who are new to SAGE or IGX, in order to gain access to the online Women and Minorities in Constructions grant application, you would need to register for access to the database. So as Lauren mentioned, the first 2 steps that need to be completed in order to apply for this grant opportunity are to register for access in IGX and to also at the same time email your letter of intent to apply for the grant. The IGX registration is what provides you with access to the application, and the letter of intent basically lets us know which application you're trying to apply for so that we can give you access to it. So that's why both of those steps should be completed at the same time. If you only complete one of those steps, we'll be unable to give you access to start the application. So to register for IGX, the first step is to visit the website, which is njduil.intelligrants.com. While on the web page, you'll navigate to that login box and click the hyperlink that says New User. When you click that link, a registration form will appear. You'll complete all the information requested on the registration form. And at the bottom, where there's a section to indicate the grant program that you're applying for, where all you need to do is type in WMIC, or Women and Minorities in Construction. When all the information is entered, you'll click the register button to submit the form. Again, this alone is not going to give you access to the application. We also need your letter of intent to approve your access. Once you have registered and emailed your letter of intent to apply for this grant, we'll then send you a follow-up email letting you know that you can now access the Women and Minorities in Construction application. This email will also include a user guide to help you navigate through the IGX system and the application process. So to start the application, you'll return to the IGX website. Again, that's going to be njbul.intelligrants.com, and use the login box to enter your login credentials. Sometimes when you first log in, IGX will send you a verification code just for security measures. So if that is the case, you would just follow the prompts and complete those steps. Once you're logged in, you'll be brought to a dashboard page, which is essentially the home page for your access. On the right side of the page, you'll see a box called My Opportunities. The Women and Minorities grant application may already be listed under My Opportunities for you to access, or you may need to use the filter option to sort what is available. To use the filter options, you'll begin by selecting the arrow next to the word filter. Under provider, you'll select New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development. And under name, if you can just type in women and then click the search button. The Women and Minorities in Construction grant application should then appear in the My Opportunities box under the filter section. And to start the application, all you would need to do is simply click the hyperlinked item there. After clicking that hyperlink, you'll be prompted with an agreement box. You'll select agree to start the application or decline if you don't want to start the application at that time. And once you agree to start the application, you do not need to complete all the components in one sitting. Rather, you have the ability to re-access the application as many times as you need before you're ready to submit. The application, while you're working on it, it's going to remain on your dashboard or your home screen under that section that was titled My Task. So it's really easy for you to just click right back in and pick up where you left off. Once you agree to start the application, you'll be brought to a document landing page, and all the pages that need to be completed will be located on the left side of your page under Application. To view or complete a specific page, you simply click the name of that page, and as you complete each page of the application, a checkbox will appear next to the name of the page to signify that it's been completed. If the box next to the page is empty, or if you see an exclamation point appear, you must revisit that page to complete any missing information or fix any errors that may have occurred. After all the pages have been completed and you're ready to submit the application, your authorized official or your agency administrator, who's usually your point of contact for the grant, then has the ability to submit the application for consideration. To submit the application, use the navigation panel on the left side of the page again and scroll to the section that's titled Status Options. Under Status Options, you'll see Application Submitted. You'll click the Application Submitted status. A box will appear asking you if you're sure if you want to submit the application, which if you are, you should click OK. If for some reason a data validation box appears instead of an agreement box, this means you have errors within your application that need to be corrected before you can submit. If that's the case, you would revisit the pages listed on the validation, correct the errors, and then try to change the status again. After you agree to submit the application, you'll notice that under status options that an application canceled option appears. This does not mean that your application is canceled, so please do not click on that option. All it simply means is that the canceled status is the only option available now that you've submitted the application. If you have any questions about whether or not your application was submitted, feel free to reach out to our team and we can always confirm that for you. So some important dates to remember. Your letter of intent, including the registration in the IGX system, should be completed by no later than noon on October 20th. We advise that as soon as you're interested or even think you're interested, register in IGX and send in your letter of intent, because worst comes to worst, if you change your mind and decide not to apply, there's no harm in having that letter and registration done. Secondly, your completed and submitted application must be received by no later than noon on October 27th. Please, please, please do not wait until the last minute to submit your application. As is common with technology, especially a database that you may not be familiar with, technical issues can occur. So do yourself a favor and allow enough time to troubleshoot any problems that arise so you do have everything submitted timely. Also, do not wait until the last minute to ask questions about issues that you're encountering. As you can imagine, the application deadline gets very crazy, and we're a small team, so we can only take so many calls before the deadline hits. You don't want to miss the deadline because you waited until the last minute to ask for help. And the deadline is very strict. Rarely do we make exceptions, so please allow yourself enough time to ensure you have everything completed and are putting your best foot forward. Lastly, final decisions and awards will be communicated to the applicant no later than 45 days following the panel review. This is the contact information for our unit. So James Manning is our Chief of Contracts and Program. Bill Sarbuck is a contractor administrator in our unit and supervises all the grant programs. For any general inquiries or technical assistance, the best way to ensure response is to email the apprenticeship unit inbox. Emails to that inbox go to everyone on our team, so someone can get back to you right away. So that concludes our presentation of the Women and Minorities in Construction Grant. I'll hand it back over to Bill so we can get to any questions that you may have.
Okay, so first things first, I'd like to reiterate and add an extra please to Tammy's 3 to please not wait to the last second to submit those letters of intent or to complete your application and submit it into the system. It is a competitive process that we're following here, and it does affect competitiveness if one or more organizations are in need of additional time beyond what others were given. So it really is not a guarantee that you'll be given even an extra couple of minutes because others have had to get it in on time and followed instructions as necessary. So it really is in your best interest to follow the instructions that were provided to you today during this technical assistance workshop. Get started as soon as possible on all aspects and get your application completed and submitted as soon as you can. You do have the ability to hold on to your application. If you're going to hold on to your application and wait to submit it to make sure that you've got everything in there, my suggestion is usually to submit it first thing in the morning on the day that it's due, or at the very end of the day before it's due, if you have it ready. And my last suggestion to you on the letter of intent is to get that in right away. Worst case scenario, you either never start an application or you have to cancel the application. But beyond that, it's really not a big deal for you to get that letter of intent in, for us to give you access to the application, and then for you to get started on completing the application. If at that sometime after that you decide you're no longer interested, you just need to notify us and we'll tell you how the process is how to complete the process of canceling your application in the database. So please pay attention to that, those instructions, because it really is an important aspect of getting your application submitted. So next thing I'd like to do is to go into our chat and go through some of the questions that have been submitted already. You can add to them as you wish when we get as I'm answering these. So first question, if you already have an NJBuild grant with a period of performance that ends in November of 2024, can you apply for new funding to be expended after November 2024 through June of 2026? No. If you have funds that end in November 2024, you're most likely an FY23 grantee for women and minorities in construction, which, as was stated in an earlier slide, and it also says it within the notice of grant opportunity, you're not eligible to apply for round 1 of FY24 funds. If we do a second round of FY24 funds, you would be eligible to apply then. But it wouldn't be to provide additional services to the same people you're already providing services to. It would be to provide services to a whole new group of individuals. We would not be looking for you to wait until the end of the other grant period to start this grant. You would have to be able to concurrently provide the trainings for the old grant and the new grant. Brian said the slides aren't changing. Hopefully that fixed for you, Brian. But if not, just know we will provide you with the slides after the training. So no worries. Yes, Kendra, the slides will be provided to the attendees. Can you combine pre-apprenticeship work readiness training, job placement, and retention services? Yes. So if you're doing a pre-apprenticeship training program, the goal here would be for you to be placing those individuals then into registered apprenticeship. If you're going to place them in just a job, you should be doing pre-employment training. But work readiness, job placement, and retention services are all part of every route that you take for training. But if you're doing pre-apprenticeship training, it should lead to registered apprenticeship. If you're doing job placement, pre-employment training, it should lead to job placement, making a minimum of $15 per hour. Is there a maximum funding limit for each grantee? We have $3 million available. My suggestion to any one grantee is to not, applicant is to not ask for all 3 million, because it's going to be very difficult for you to show the need and your organization's ability to provide the services necessary for $3 million. As I said earlier, the maximum allowable cost per head is $15,000. So if you are looking to serve 15 or 20 individuals, multiply it by 15,000, and that'll tell you what the maximum allowable is that you can request in funding for your organization. When is the next round, and how many rounds are anticipated for FY24? So I can't tell you exactly when the next round will be, but it'll probably be sometime next calendar year, after January 1st. I do anticipate us doing at least one more round of women and minorities in construction. I also anticipate us doing a women and minority veterans in construction program, which is basic. It's similar, but it's specific to just veterans. So just something to keep in mind. Can funds be used to help participants pay for trade union books? Uh, we don't restrict a whole lot of how you can utilize the funds, and we don't really tell you how to utilize the funds. There are some restrictions on what funds are allowed to be used on, mainly, we aren't looking to pay for buildings to be built or purchased, cars or stuff like that to be purchased, computers to be purchased. We usually don't cover things like that. But as far as paying for tools and things that are necessary for the training aspect and for them to get into employment, yes, we definitely have had programs that have gotten those types of funding approved in the past. Worst case scenario, though, if you apply for the grant, if there's something in there that we're not quite sure if it's an allowable cost, we'll just come to you and ask you to change it, if you are a recipient of the grant. Are state agencies eligible to apply for this funding? So the quick answer, Markia, is yes. The harder answer is it depends on what it is you're looking to do. Um, with other state agencies, what becomes difficult is how we get funding from our agency to your agency. Sometimes it's not as simple as there just being a payment voucher that we submit that you guys submit and we pay you. There are some restrictions in those ways, but it really depends because these funds do come from other state agencies. So it would really limit us from who we could give the funds to, based on where the funds are generated from. As Lauren spoke to earlier in this presentation, the NJBUILD fund comes from 0.5% of all state issued contracts that are for more than $1 million. So if you're a state agency and you provided a construction related project that was for more than $1 million, you supply 0.5% of those funds to the NJBUILD fund. That's what creates the grant availability. So there is something in there that could make it a little bit more difficult. I wouldn't say that it would stop you from being eligible to apply, though. Can employers use funds to hire, train, marketing, and administrative staff? So the funds can't be used to hire or train marketing and administrative staff. The funds can only be used to hire, to train individuals in construction related fields. So marketing and administrative staff would not necessarily fit into construction related fields. Can funds be used to help women and minority businesses obtain public works construction contracts? No. Other than maybe meeting the requirements of those construction related public works construction contracts, requirements on how many women or minorities that you are employ, uh, it wouldn't be based on that. The grant is not specific to women and minority owned businesses. The grant is specific to the participants who are receiving training being women and minorities, and that the training then being in the construction fields, construction related fields. Hopefully that's clear and makes sense. How many applicants do you expect to award? So it really depends. If we get 10 applicants and they ask for $3 million, then we might fund all 10 if their applications are deemed worthy of funding. And by that, I just mean if the panels that are selected, that selection committee that we spoke to a few minutes ago, reviews your application and feels that you have the ability to be successful. We're going to fund the first $3 million worth of grants that meet that. It's not a first come first base situation. It's the highest scores on those applications. So if we have 10 applicants and 5 applicants get approved, but the first 3 of those 5 are the full $3 million, then that will fund the 3 at this time. And those others would be eligible to apply for future opportunities if they come available. But there's no like set number of applications that we're going to fulfill. We have $3 million, excuse me, to spend, and we're going to allocate 3 million if we get $3 million worth of qualified applications. Is there a lead abatement registered apprenticeship program? I quickly went and looked at this on USDOL's website. I did not see a specific lead abatement registered apprenticeship industry. I feel like it would just fall under, excuse me, the construction industry. But you can reach out to USDOL and they could give you a better understanding on that. And we will give you USDOL's contact information in the email in which we supply you with some additional information after this. Are previous grant awards applications available through Oprah? So no, not necessarily. You're not eligible to see what other people supplied to us for an application to make yourself more successful in your application process, if that's what you're looking for. We will, upon completion of the grant project, of the grant application, if you're not awarded, or even if you're awarded, we can meet with you and discuss areas that you could maybe work on to make your application more successful in the future. But up front, you do not have access to Oprah requesting past applications that have been submitted for review. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way in Oprah requests. Are employers required to offer full-time employment to participants that complete the program? Is part-time permanent employment acceptable? So there is no restriction on part-time employment being what's offered to the participants. But I would say to you, if a panel member is reviewing your application versus somebody else's application, and they're guaranteeing full-time employment and you're guaranteeing part-time employment, if I was that panel member, I would opt to grant funds to the other organization strictly because the benefit to the participants is higher. So it really is a catch-22 for me to answer that question. I don't want to tell you that it's not allowable, because it's definitely allowable, but it is something to take into consideration when you're finding your partnerships and figuring out exactly what connections you're going to be able to make. Now, you may have a large portion of women and minorities that are only interested in part-time employment. That's something to add to your application. But it really does come down to what the benefit to the participants and the employers will be. You always hear the saying, everybody's always looking to get the best bang for their buck, and ultimately we spend the $15,000, and we're hoping to get the best opportunities for employers and for residents here, women and minority residents here in New Jersey, with the $15,000 that we have allocated per participant. How is a curriculum approved? So when you're talking about approved curriculum, that would be a pre-apprenticeship program. So a registered apprenticeship training program would be approved through USDOL. So they have a review process where you provide them with your curriculum and your training schedule, and they basically review it and approve it. As far as when we say approved, what we don't mean formally approved when we're talking about the pre-apprenticeship training or the job placement or the pre-employment trainings. It's more about making sure you're working with employers and industry in your community to make sure you're meeting their needs with the trainings that you're putting in place. if at the end of the day you're training them and when it gets done, what you're providing to these participants isn't benefiting the employers or the participants to find a job, you're kind of just wasting your time and your money. So, our goal here would be for the trainings to show a proven connection to employers, and for you to have those partnerships up front so that employers can have a say in what those trainings are and what those trainings are providing. If a trainer comes to you and says, OSHA 15 isn't enough, I need OSHA 30, well, then that's something you should be taking into consideration when you're creating your training program. That's obviously a very simplistic statement that I used, but it's just the first one that comes to mind, and it's something for you to take into consideration. Are grantees eligible to offer employment opportunities upon completion of their apprenticeship program? If so, would this grant fund a percentage of salaries? So if you as a grantee are an employer in the construction fields and you're going to train women and minorities and then hire them in that construction field, then yes, you could hire them. Would we be capable of utilizing some of the grant funds to pay for portions of their salary? Yes, the grant does allow for on-the-job training to be utilized for your participants once placement occurs. But remember, everything stays within that $15,000 per participant allowance. So it's not 15,000 for the training and 15,000 for the job. You get a maximum of 15,000 per participant for all parts. So sometimes it's difficult to have the additional funds once the trainings are all completed for them to be able to then cover on the job training as well, which would be that salary subsidy. Is training for home health care considered construction related? No, it is not. Home health care does not fall into construction related occupations, unless they're building the healthcare facilities, or working in them as maintenance people or electricians or HVAC. It would not fit the requirements of NJBuild. We do have other grants. We have a PACE grant that you might be more interested in, Angie, and which will come out here in the next few, probably next month, maybe the beginning of November. So if you want to reach out to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address that was on the slide prior to this, we can make sure your organization and your email is on our mailing list, and we can make sure you get knowledge of that grant when it becomes available. Could you explain again what funds are eligible to be used for? Does this grant fund training apprenticeship programs to be provided by third-party contractor, cost of apprenticeships, etc.? So the grant does not specifically state what it is allowable for. That's up to you to decide what you want to use the funds for. But ultimately, what it covers is the pre-apprenticeship or pre-employment training that's necessary for the participants in order to get placed into employment, and anything that goes into that training. Sometimes it's to pay for tools, sometimes it's to pay for instructors only, sometimes it's to pay third-party vendors to provide that classroom instruction and that training. At the end of the day, the goal is for your training to prepare women and minorities to work in a field in the construction fields, and then to have the ability to place them there post the training ending. So sometimes that might be helping them with getting tools to be able to go out and get those jobs, and sometimes it's just helping them with getting credentials in order to be able to go out and take and get those jobs. Uh, but ultimately, it comes down to you as the organization applying to decide how you want to use those funds to best prepare these individuals to find employment in the construction fields that you're training them in. That's why it's very important for you to have those partnerships up front with these employers so that they know what it is you're doing, what you're looking to do, and what you're looking to accomplish. And they know that once the training is completed, these are the individuals that you're going to have available for them to consider for hire, and ultimately to hopefully help reduce the limited number of women and minorities that are in the fields, but at the same time meet the needs of their company. So Does the applicant have to reside in New Jersey aside from having the business address based in and operating out of New Jersey? So no, you do not have to reside in New Jersey, but you do have to have a business address and a what's the word that we use, Tammy? Uh,
Presence.
Presence. There's the word. See that? Uh, you have to have a presence here in New Jersey um, for your organization. Ultimately, NJBuild is funded through state funds, and we always look to make sure that any funds that are coming from taxpayers or taxation within the state of New Jersey are utilized to benefit New Jersey residents and New Jersey employers. So that would be the reasoning for that. Will there be an effort to spread the awards throughout the state? So that is obviously our goal, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the best applications that are submitted. If the best applications submitted reside mostly in the northern region of the state, then they're going to be the ones that are awarded. We do not um, separate our applications based on a north, central, south, or where you're providing services. Because even though you might be located in Newark, you might be providing training in multiple locations throughout the state. We actually have a vendor who's located up in the Essex County area who provides services in central New Jersey. All their trainings are central and south New Jersey. So it really comes down to who provides the best applications and who meets the requirements of the notice of grant opportunity the best. Like I said, just because you don't necessarily get this grant this round doesn't mean that you're not eligible to apply again in the future. So, it's always something to take into consideration. Will the Gaines grant be released again for FY24? Well, Gaines grant has actually not been released for FY24 yet. But yes, if we will do probably 2 rounds of Gaines coming up here in the next next month or so. I would imagine you'll see the Gaines NGO get posted. Is subcontracting allowed for any part of the contract, such as specific service? Sure. Just know that you're contracting with that subcontractor, not us. We contract with your organization only, and your organization is then capable and eligible to utilize the funds that are in whatever way they feel necessary in order to meet their needs of their participants. You do need to provide um, proof of anything that you're paying out. We work in what's called a reimbursement model. So you're paying it out up front, and then we pay you back for whatever you've paid out up front. So those are some things to just take into consideration. Um, but yes, subcontracting would be allowed if you had a vendor that provided the classroom instruction. You could pay them out of the grant for those types of things. You'll see many different line items within our budget once you gain access to it. That'll hopefully help clear some of that stuff up for you. I see Brian is typing, so I don't want to. There we go. So a possible limited factor on the amount of capital we are able to apply for is the number of people we are able to help. So Brian, I'm not sure I'm quite following, but hopefully this will be clear enough. The maximum allowable grant request is the amount of participants you say you're going to serve times 15,000. Hopefully that's clear, but it depends. Whatever number of participants you are going to train, you can multiply that by 15,000, and that's the maximum allowable grant request that you can make to us. Hopefully that makes sense. Are employers required to provide RTI or just OJT? I think you're speaking to if you're an employer and you are choosing one of the 3 options. So if you're an employer and you're looking to hire these individuals and provide them with on-the-job training, and that's the only training you're going to provide them with, then you only have to do OJT. If classroom instruction is necessary in order for them to meet the needs of your business, you could provide both. It's really up to you. But what we're saying is you can be an employer, hire these individuals from day one and train them on the job so that they can become more, um, uh, I don't know, just a better fit for your company, and not have to necessarily put them through classroom instruction if on-the-job instruction is all that's necessary for them to be able to do the work in your field. You can be employer and do a pre-apprenticeship program that leads to registered apprenticeship if you have a registered apprenticeship program through your company as well. Or you could be an employer and do a pre-employment training that leads to employment with your company or other companies as time goes on. There is not a restriction on what you can do just based on the fact that you're an employer. You can do multiple things, just like you can do multiple things if you are a training provider that's applying for the grant. You could be a training provider who's doing a pre-apprenticeship model, or you can be a training provider who's doing a pre-employment model. It really depends on what you are interested as an organization in doing, and how you look to place these individuals once the training is completed. But in an employer situation, they don't have to just do OJT. They can go and do a registered apprenticeship if they wanted to, or they could just do pre-employment training that leads them into employment long term. Hopefully that clears things up. Okay, so that looks to be all the questions that have been submitted so far. Is there anybody else that has a question? At this point, I'll say you can either type it in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask it, um, whichever's easier for you.
Hello. Quick question. In regards to the application process, would it be better if we apply earlier on as opposed to closer to the end time?
So yes, I mean, what's in your best interest, Brian, is to get started as soon as possible. That doesn't mean that you have to submit it right away once you've completed everything. You can complete it and take a day or two to think about it before you submit it. But ultimately, I would just suggest that you don't wait till the last minute of the due date in order to submit. That really, it puts any type of issue, um, it really restricts you if any issues occur. You know, sometimes you think you're ready and then you go to hit submit and some errors pop up and say that you got to go back to these pages and fix this and that. Well, if you don't give yourself the proper amount of time in order to go check those things, you wouldn't be able to get it submitted on time. So, you know, I just usually suggest that you don't take for granted the fact that you have until, what is it, October 27th to submit the application. Work toward getting it submitted as soon as you can. And then once you submit it, if for some reason you look back at it and say, oh my God, I'm an idiot, I meant to put this on page 3. Can I please get it back? You email us, we can send it right back to you and you can update it, as long as you'll just have to resubmit it to us again after that. But um, don't worry yourself with the fact that you would possibly submit too early. If you get it submitted to us well before the due date and you need to make a change, just let us know and we can send it back to you and you can make a change. Um, but for me, it's more about making sure that you don't limit your organization's ability to be considered for the grant because you don't get it in on time, or that you're rushing to get it in and therefore you submit a subpar application. That would be obviously not what I would hope for you as well as you or your organizations. Yvonne, we're going to provide the slides to you after this presentation. You registered for this meeting, so we will send it out to all those who registered to attend. You'll get the slideshow, frequently asked questions, the notice of grant opportunity, uh, contact information for USDOL in case you want to reach out to them in reference to registered apprenticeship for any reason. Um, Information on how to collect and get that UEI number, that unique entity identifier, through sam.gov. We'll provide you with a whole bunch of details after this call. You'll probably get it in the next day or two. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time because we have to upload this recording. Yes, the recording will be available as well. The recording will be a link within the frequently asked questions, but we'll tell you that in the email when we send it to you. And that link will be to a YouTube page, just so you know. So hopefully nobody has any restrictions that don't let them go onto YouTube. For whatever reason, our state agencies allow us to go onto YouTube, but possibly not some of your own websites, which is weird. Any other questions? All right, well, I'd like to thank everybody for participating in today's technical assistance workshop. We'll get all that information out to you as soon as we can. If any questions come up and you need to reach out to us, please feel free to reach out to apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov. Just know that if it's information that would normally need to be shared with everybody, we may not be able to provide it to you alone. Because obviously we don't look to hinder the competitive balance of this application process, but you can usually reach out to us and ask for information that is specific to just yourself. That wouldn't be something that affects the competitiveness of the grant, and we could provide you with some information and or instruction. In the meantime, though, we look forward to receiving your applications and your letters of intent. Please get started on those letters of intent as soon as possible. Submit them to the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address so that we can give you access, and as well get started on getting those tax clearance certificates as soon as possible, because I promise you they're only a headache if you wait. I promise you. You'll never have an issue if you reach out right away, but if you wait 3 days, there's always an issue. It doesn't matter what, it's a catch-22. It's, it comes with it's a guarantee, I guess is the way I would put it. Otherwise, thank you once again for participating, and we look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Thank you so much.